Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. All right, so I had a good lunch. I'm back, and I want to talk about what you hear about Deshaun Watson taking Shedeur Sanders under his wing. Yes, it is true that Deshaun Watson is mentoring Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, even though he's injured. He's being a good teammate, right? I have some time on my hands. I've been a quarterback in the NFL. He can guide them and help them come along. But yes, it is true. He's taken Shedeur Sanders under his wing. Now, if you're new to this podcast, you may have not heard me say that it is not a coincidence that Shedeur Sanders landed in the same city where Deshaun Watson is. Y'all have heard me talk about Deshaun Watson and how he has essentially been reimbursed every single dime that he paid out in those settlements. And two Texas grand juries did not find any charges of criminality. And he was not put on the commissioner's exempt list. And more importantly, he was not the only one. Justin Tucker confirmed that, right? So, what's wrong with the NFL? Exactly what's going on with Deshaun Watson is what's wrong with the NFL. People want to point fingers at Deshaun, but they don't want to admit who else was involved. They want to, I guess you could say, try to humiliate him for the rest of the time that he's in the NFL for something that he still maintains his innocence about. And when you look at the fact that Deshaun Watson has been reimbursed every single dime, plus some to go enjoy his life, and congratulations, he's getting married. That's what's wrong with the NFL. The truth is oftentimes hidden. So Deshaun Watson has to live with the reputation of somebody with these allegations. And he's the only person that has to live with repeated conversations about misconduct, even though he's not the only person. And the NFL itself is guilty of harping on and making light of what happened with Deshaun Watson without talking about the truth. That they essentially reimbursed him every dime. He maintains his innocence. He was not the only one in the Texans organization at the time. He was not the only one in the NFL. But he's the only one that they talk about. That's what's wrong with the NFL. The truth is often hidden unless they want to find something to pin on you to prevent you from either enjoying your life, being a quarterback, or being the face of the league. Deshaun Watson was also devalued in the NFL draft. So taking Shedeur Sanders under his wing, there's a lot of positives there. There's a lot of perspectives. Some people say, it's not a good idea because he got in trouble. Was he the only one to get in trouble? No. He was the only one they want to talk about. Is anybody worried about Justin Tucker negatively influencing his teammates at wherever he is? He has a 10-game suspension. Is anybody talking about that? No. So Deshaun Watson taking Shedeur Sanders under his wing, I see a perspective that's not being talked about. How to survive collusion, retaliation, defamation, and being devalued and held back in the NFL. Without the NFL, one, telling the truth about what really went down, why you really were pushed down to 144. Just like the NFL hasn't told the truth about what happened after Deshaun Watson asked for a trade. In 3 short months, the lawyer that was the neighbor to the owner of the Texans suddenly mysteriously found 22 cases to pin on Deshaun Watson. But he wasn't the only one. They don't talk about that. Deshaun Watson can teach Shedeur how to survive collusion and parlay it into probably, when he gets his next contract, a $500 million contract, fully guaranteed. because they colluded against you too. They trying to ruin your reputation too. They trying to devalue you too. They not telling the truth about what really happened with you. They're not talking about how you're not the only person that they've done this thing to. Deshaun Watson can teach Shedeur how to survive amidst the racial bias, the prejudice, the defamation, the retaliation, and the collusion in the NFL. See, $230 million guaranteed makes it easier for you to move on with your life while people constantly berate you, while people constantly trash you and point you out as this only person who's done something that others are also guilty of, even after Justin Tucker comes out. That you the person they want to put down. That they're putting you down not because you're the only person that's guilty, but you the person they want to tear down. Deshaun Watson can help Shedeur Sanders survive the next 4 years in the league and get paid. Because what we don't know is why Deshaun Watson really got a $230 million fully guaranteed contract after settling 22 cases or 24 cases of misconduct that he maintains his innocence for, and 2 Texas grand juries said he ain't even guilty. And the league didn't put him out. And here come Justin Tucker. Well, if 2 plus 2 is 4, Deshaun Watson wasn't the only one. And he asked for a trade. Did he get retaliated against? Because he's a black quarterback, and how dare you have the audacity to think you can choose for yourself? Because Deshaun Watson, at the time that he asked for a trade in 2021, is also the same year that the NFL settled that race norming lawsuit that declared that black NFL players had lower cognitive functioning than whites for the tune of $1 billion with a B. The same year Deshaun Watson asked for a trade. So Deshaun Watson can teach Shedeur how to survive the next 4 years being blamed for something that other people were guilty of. And they don't want to talk about that. He can teach Shedeur how to survive the next 4 years being hated on and held back. He can teach him how to survive in a toxic and racist environment. There's a lot of perspectives here that Deshaun Watson can teach Shedeur. He can also tell him, don't trust your teammates when they introduce you to women. He can tell him that too. And don't trust your teammates when they tell you, bro, everybody do it. Go ahead. No, because they're going to set you up. There's a lot of things Deshaun Watson can teach Shedeur Sanders. That when you've been colluded against, you can get a fully guaranteed contract too. Because the NFL does not want to be accused of certain things, including racism. Not a coincidence that Deshaun Watson asked for a trade in 2021 and the NFL settled a $1 billion lawsuit for race norming straight off the plantation, which means they look down on black NFL players, which is exactly what Deshaun Watson is. Except for the difference between Deshaun Watson and a wide receiver or a defensive back. Deshaun Watson is a quarterback, the coveted position in the NFL, the most important position on the team. So Deshaun Watson can teach and will likely teach Shedeur how to survive in a toxic environment in Cleveland that does not value black quarterbacks. Because all day I've been looking for a list of black quarterbacks who played for the Cleveland Browns that were successful, and I still haven't found it. He can tell him, don't worry about the fans that's going to hate on you even when you win, because they have another problem, racial bias. Don't worry about the toxic environment here with reporters that come for you. Put a buffer between you and them. Make your answer short, sweet, and move on. Don't let these people get to you, because after all, they owe you for colluding against you, for defaming you, for devaluing you. So he gonna teach him how to survive the next 4 years to get his $500 million contract. That's what he gonna do. And I'm happy for it. I told y'all it was not a coincidence. Shedeur landed in Cleveland. I said this is gonna highlight Deshaun Watson's situation. Here's another opportunity to ask the question that people refuse to answer. How in the hell did Deshaun Watson get a fully guaranteed $230 million contract after 22 or 24 cases of misconduct? But he wasn't found guilty. He maintains his innocence and he got reimbursed essentially every dime. All that's left is his reputation to try to mend. And I don't think he even worried about it. I'm sure he got 230 million reasons why he don't need to be worried about with people who set him up, with people who know the truth but refuse to tell it, who allow him to be disparaged every single day after he was devalued in the NFL draft. Think. He got 230 reasons why he just needs to move on and accept the fact that he was in a toxic environment. And this is what they do to black quarterbacks. Find a way to tear you down and hold you back. People want to hate on Deshaun Watson, but they don't ask the question that doesn't really require critical thinking. You just got to think. Why did he get all of his money reimbursed to him? But y'all still say he this and he that. Why is he really not playing? Because if Deshaun Watson plays and balls out with a $230 million contract, other people going to want one too. And the person that lands above him on the list of being the best going to get it. So if he looks sorry, if he underperforms, then guess what? Oh, hell no, we're not giving nobody else that contract. But they never discuss why he got all his money back. They never discuss that's exactly what that contract does. Grand jury said he ain't guilty. The commissioner said, nope, he not guilty. This just standard misconduct. So all that you heard about 3 months after Deshaun Watson asked for a trade and where he is right now, all of those lessons that he's learning, he's going to teach Shedeur how to survive in this league. How to survive in Cleveland with reporters like Mary Cabot, who do nothing but be negative about him, even though there's about 20 other rookies to discuss. How to survive when you're being targeted. How to survive when you're being lied on. How to survive when they underpay you. When they devalue you in the draft. What to do when it's time for your next contract. How you going to get it? That's what Deshaun Watson is teaching Shedeur, and I'm happy for it. Because he needs somebody who's already been burned by the NFL and has survived, like Russell Wilson, to take him under his wing so he too can survive with his mental intact, his reputation intact, so he don't get set up. Because whoever went to Deshaun Watson and say, hey, I got some people for you, some girls for you, they don't want to talk about who that was. He probably going to teach him, man, be smarter than I was. Don't trust your teammates like that. You can't trust all your teammates. Some people say Deshaun Watson was getting sacked a lot too. Seems to be common when it comes to black quarterbacks. So the perspective is Deshaun Watson can take Shedeur Sanders under his wing and teach him all the lessons he learned after he got stabbed in the back by the Texans and set up for doing something that so many others in the same organization were doing and what people refuse to talk about. He got all his money back. That's what Deshaun Watson can teach Shedeur, how to survive in a toxic environment where they don't want you to be the starting quarterback. That's what he gonna teach him. How the fact that he not playing because they don't want him to play. That's why he up there every day to show you it ain't me. He's right. Because if he gets the chance to ball out, remember, he has a winning record in Cleveland, 8-4. Because if he balls out, his contract can become the norm. Why was Deshaun Watson's contract fully guaranteed for $230 million? Why was it the exception to the rule? Does anybody want to talk about that? But no, they don't want to talk about the truth as to why his contract was the exception. They don't want to talk about that. But that's what needs to be talked about. And that's why we keep circling this wagon with Deshaun Watson. Because the truth about Deshaun Watson's contract being the exception hasn't come out yet. Why? Because they retaliated against him after he asked for a trade? Or because he wasn't the only one. And oh shit, I was going to get you. But now I'm about to get him too, and him too, and him too. And I didn't mean to do that. You can't find 22 people that fast in 3 months. And then no grand jury, let alone 2 grand juries, find you innocent. Grand juries convict people when they sneeze. He maintains his innocence to this day. And he got paid for it. That's what he gonna teach Shedeur. How to survive. He gonna teach Shedeur how to survive. And probably get his fully guaranteed contract too. Because see, one thing about the NFL, they love to collude. It's crazy how they were guilty of collusion in January, but today they not guilty. And it's word speak because why? It's word speak because they want to say there were no damages. Just because there's no damages doesn't mean you're not guilty. So they didn't talk about it when they were guilty. But now they want to talk about it when they've somehow spun it not to be guilty. Because the NFL doesn't want to admit that it likes to collude. It colluded against Lamar Jackson. It colluded against Shedeur. It colluded against Deshaun. And others. Terrell Pryor. Sure, if they catch you doing something wrong, they can hold that over your head. But it's a lot of people they catch doing wrong. They don't talk about it. They don't talk about it at all. It gets spun just like Retzloff's situation. Or it get pushed under the rug and it gets 2 hours of coverage by the media like Justin Tucker. But people who have no character issues, like Shedeur Sanders, that the league has publicly humiliated, gets talked about incessantly over speeding tickets. Amazingly, I don't hear shit about Shedeur's speeding tickets this week. I wonder why. I wonder why not. Because we're going to have to talk about Retzloff? Is it somebody else that did something else and they don't want to talk about that? Because amazingly, they don't have any issues. Nobody's saying anything. They have moved on. The last person to say anything about Shedeur's speeding tickets that I can recall was Skip Bayless. And I'm like, Skip, don't you have a scandal that you want to kind of not like call attention to? How you going to be a hypocrite when you have a misconduct scandal and you worried about somebody's speeding tickets after they were publicly humiliated, after they were being bullied, after they were being assaulted and abused? Saw a law in Texas, and I'm sorry, in Georgia that's getting ready to pass, where they're lowering sentences for people who have been abused. So in other words, if somebody has abused you and you trying to get away from them or you harm them in the act, they don't hold it against you like somebody else that hasn't been abused because you're under duress. You've been living under duress. So how the hell can that happen with state laws, but Shedeur doesn't get the same? Look at the dates of his speeding tickets. Just because you don't see him crying doesn't mean it wasn't easy for him to deal with the way he was abused in the draft. He was humiliated and bullied in the draft. And how was he treated when he got to Cleveland? Do we need to watch the pre-draft or the post-draft press conference again? Do we need to watch Mary Cabot ask Joe Flacco what she think about Shedeur's fame? Or what he thinks about Shedeur being famous and how it negatively affects other people. And we have to hear her talk about how it's inconvenient that Shedeur is still on the roster because they got to practice on two different ends of the field. We have to listen to this woman basically try to show everything wrong with Shedeur being in Cleveland. If Cleveland don't want Shedeur, then trade him to a team that does. But see, here's the problem that people don't want to talk about. Just like could nobody draft him and he was off the board and somehow magically fell into the hands of Cleveland and he wasn't on the draft board, nobody else can trade for Shedeur. Because the plan going forward is to reduce the number of quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders now, which is why you see who the best quarterbacks are being manipulated coming right out of college. Instead of 3 black quarterbacks in 2025, 3 black quarterbacks in 2024, you're about to see maybe 1. And that's the top 5. I said the top 3. Not all 5 teams don't necessarily need a quarterback in the first round. They could take one, but they likely can't do what they did this year in free agency and block. So that's what Deshaun Watson is going to teach Shedeur, how to survive in the NFL that I don't think he knew existed. But then again, maybe he did. Either way, he about to be schooled by somebody that not only survived, but walked away with $230 million guaranteed. And he don't give a damn what they think about him. Because I'm sure they don't want him to talk about who else was involved in the Texans organization. So he gonna teach him leverage. Let's see what y'all talking about. Kudos to Deshaun Watson. Yeah, he getting ready to get married. That man got paid $230 million fully guaranteed to go enjoy his life. And he got essentially reimbursed every goddamn dime that they made him pay. And he still maintains his innocence. He does not have a record. He has not been convicted by 2 grand juries. And he's not allowed to play in Cleveland because if he plays and balls out with that winning record that he already has and he adds to his winning record, they don't want other people asking for what Deshaun Watson has. Deshaun Watson's contract is the catalyst for this collusion case that you're hearing about that went through arbitration that said the NFL was found guilty of collusion, but there were no damages. Some people heard not guilty. That's not the same thing. The NFL colluded, and yes, there were damages. But who gonna hold the NFL accountable? The Players Association won't even do it. Deshaun Watson gonna teach Shedeur how to navigate. Don't even worry about that. You don't even have to go that route because Deshaun Watson didn't go that route. And he got $230 million when it was time for him to get another contract. He went from $10 million a year to $46 million a year. And notice, no other team can trade for him either. How you like them apples? Shedeur and Deshaun are in the same situation. Neither one of them did anything to deserve what happened to them. They both were targeted for a reason. Deshaun asked for a trade. Shedeur just wanted to go to a winning team. Well, he could change the culture, something he's done multiple times. But little does Shedeur know when he said that, they heard something else. They were triggered because when they think about culture, they ain't talking about football. They think he won't bring his friends with him too. That's why they had an issue with him having an entourage, which really just his social media crew. The same thing that the Jaguars have filming for their individual YouTube pages. And nobody has a problem with it. See, the New York Giants had a problem with Shedeur because they didn't want a black quarterback and they needed a way not to get one. Now you're getting ready to watch them try to make sure Russell Wilson not their first black starting quarterback. Russell Wilson, of all people, who's named in this collusion case, who lost $81 million in guarantees, lands in the one team that trashed Shedeur Sanders and defamed him. And they end up with that guy, the one. They surely don't want him to start because they didn't even want him to be QB1 in Pittsburgh. And it happened anyway. And that's why Mike Tomlin don't have no power. And now, after he interviewed with Cleveland, and they didn't need a quarterback. Cleveland passed on Russ and didn't want Pickett. I mean, didn't want Russ, but they want Pickett, Flacco, and Gabriel. They didn't want Russ, who just took Pittsburgh to the playoffs. So what? They made sure he ended up in the one team that has never had a black starting quarterback, the last team to have a black quarterback, period. So what do you think they thought they were going to do to Russell Wilson? They think they're going to bench him. And what did we see at the beginning of the season? Jackson Dart isn't good. From what I've read about Jackson Dart, they can go and practice with him every single day. But when you get to the game situation and there's pressure, he folds. That's why they said he reached his ceiling at Ole Miss. That's why he threw 4 interceptions in his last game. But see, they think they can control everything because they allow people associated with Ole Miss, the New Orleans Saints, and the New York Giants to control the quarterbacks that go to what teams? The New York Giants and the Saints. You see that? That ain't but one family name, the Mannings. And there was just a quarterback passing camp called the Manning's Quarterback Camp, which looks like it was at Newman High School where the younger Arch Manning goes, who seems to hang out with a lot of black people. All the quarterbacks I saw at that camp are the ones that they have listed coming out of college. I don't think I saw Lenore Sellers, and he would be the only black one. I didn't see him. I saw the LSU quarterback. I saw Clemson quarterback, Oklahoma quarterback. I didn't see Lenore Sellers. So which two of them gonna have their careers orchestrated through the Saints and the Giants? Who the next two? Because that's who making all the decisions. It's not a coincidence. The Saints and the Giants. It ain't but one family I know of have a connection to both of those teams. And they went 2-3 instead of Shedeur and Milroe. So when they at those camps, they looking to be the next two that somebody from the Manning family has control to put into these organizations. Just like Tom Brady was brought into the Raiders organization to help them choose who? A quarterback. And he couldn't even choose one, the best quarterback, and two, the guy he mentored. The NFL don't even want to admit that Shedeur is a combination of Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, and Jaden Daniels. That's why they needed a narrative about him as a person because they couldn't refute his skills because stats don't lie, not raw stats. The way you present them, you could lie. And I've seen them do that too with free agency. So Deshaun Watson is teaching Shedeur everything he learned from the moment he asked for a trade and everything that ensued afterwards up until yesterday. How to survive in the NFL when you're a black quarterback. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm sure he's providing the mental support too. Yep, absolutely. That's what all the lessons are about. Because when you have somebody that has been through what you have been through, and we all have been to at some point in life where somebody has come to us and said, look, you're going to be okay. This is not the end of the world. I've been through something similar. Let me tell you what I learned. And y'all know Shedeur is coachable. He's teachable. He going to listen. He going to tell them, don't worry about them people. Go out there and ball. Watch your teammates. Don't let them introduce you to nobody. Don't let them set you up. He gonna tell him how to avoid the pitfalls. Because when these guys come into the leagues, I have realized something. They coming in wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. They believe that they teammates are their family. They believe that this is a brotherhood. But they refuse to believe that they on a plantation. They refuse to believe that race norming is still a thing. Just because they took it out of the HR manual for practices and policies doesn't mean it lives on every single day. Why else would the NFL care that the majority of their quarterbacks are black? The starters. Who cares? I thought the goal was to win. That's something else that they learned. In college, it's about winning. Everybody trying to get to the natty. But not so much in the NFL. Everybody just trying to still get paid for their non-guaranteed contracts. Nobody wants to push the envelope, and people accept whatever is told to them. That they don't have guaranteed contracts because they have the highest frequency of injuries. That's false. Now let's see who's gonna go back and argue it. That there's 39 people still holding out, and one of them might be Quinshon Junkins, but we haven't heard anything from the media. You have to physically go and look for an update. Why are they not talking about that? Because that's how the NFL operates, and that's what's wrong with the NFL. Everything is a secret. Secrets, lies, cover up, collusion, defamation, devaluing, race norming. That's all it is. When you open it up and you start to look at the history and modern times and current present day activities, it's the same. From Joe Gilliam and Marlon Briscoe to Shedeur Sanders and Lamar Jackson. It's the same. The Houston owner was upset and wanted to punish Deshaun Watson for asking for a trade. That's what everybody says. And the fact that he refused to play another game for them, it said they paid those women to lie on him. That's what everybody says. Everybody who knew about this situation knew this young man asked for a trade and was being retaliated against. And it's not that he just asked for a trade. There was I guess like a unspoken common courtesy. Hey, Deshaun, before we trade your wide receiver one, we're going to talk to you first. And that didn't happen. When DeAndre Hopkins, who's in Baltimore right now as wide receiver one in front of LaJohntay Wester, when he got traded out of the Texans, that's all people could talk about because it was like, boom, like what? It didn't make any sense. It did not make any sense. And then Deshaun Watson wanted to trade. And then after that, 22 people suddenly had a problem. But what didn't get talked about is the moment they realized Deshaun Watson wasn't the only one. Or the moment they realized they weren't going to get away with it because they knew Deshaun Watson wasn't the only one. If you can find 22 women with misconduct in 3 months, you already knew how to find them. Because other people had given Deshaun the information to the ladies when he put his feet on the ground. Because that's what the vets do, right? They look out for the rookies, right? He wasn't the only one. Justin Tucker confirmed it for you. And he ain't the only one either. Deshaun wasn't the only one in the Texans organization. And Justin Tucker not the only one in Baltimore. This is the thing. So that's what Deshaun Watson is teaching Shedeur. How to avoid the pitfalls of the things he fell into and the people he trusted and what power he thought he had holding the most important position in the NFL. How the front office assured him that they would talk to him before they traded his wide receiver one. How he thought he could ask for a trade because he ain't the first person to ask for a trade. What he learned from that. And what happened for him to end up with $230 million. And it probably has something to do with the fact that he hired one of the best lawyers in the country who said, well, you know, if Deshaun goes, I'm going to have to take the one you don't want to talk about. And him too. And him too. And him. So they tried to wiggle their way out of this. And the only reason Deshaun not playing is because if he plays and balls out, adds to his winning record, his contract, which is an exception to the rule, which people refuse to talk about why that's the case. If he's so bad, will become the norm. Collusion. Retaliation, collusion, cover up, collusion. Collusion, collusion, collusion. That's it. These guys come into the league wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they don't expect that, and it's slapping them in the face. Now, how do I duck and dodge this? And they realizing, oh, I'm a wide receiver. This don't apply to me. I can go out here with peak substance and it's okay. I can just come back to work. But Deshaun Watson still getting dragged for something he done been reimbursed for. And Shedeur Sanders is being dragged for some parking tickets, except for today, because Retzloff's story came out yesterday or day before. We gonna talk about it. See how it's only the black quarterbacks? They don't care about pink substance if you not a quarterback that's black. But I already didn't want you to get to this level. So I'm going to use everything to pull you down. If you sneeze wrong, I'm going to take you down. But Deshaun Watson, probably through his lawyer, said, hey, if you going to take me down, we all going. That's what you supposed to do. That's what you supposed to do. Stand up for yourself. This ain't just me. And I know y'all know that. That's why he got his money back. I don't care what they tell you. Because there is no company in the world that reimburses somebody after they settled 22 or 24 cases of misconduct, regardless of if the Texas grand jury found them guilty or not. But 2 grand juries did not. So that goes into what's really going on here. What's really going on here? The media don't want to talk about that. They just want to punch up on Shedeur at the behest of the NFL. Why? Because they don't want nobody else with Deshaun's contract, which is where the collusion case came from. So I'm going to have to keep downplaying him and down talking him and disparaging him like he just trash. And what happened to Shedeur? Pre-draft extensively with Cleveland to the owner said what on March 31st on or about. We took a big swing and miss with Deshaun. That's another lie. They did not take a big swing and miss with Deshaun. Deshaun has a winning record in Cleveland. Deshaun is up there every day because he could play. They refuse to let him play. I guess they'd rather have the insurance money than to have another quarterback asking for Deshaun Watson's exception to the rule contract. They were willing to get into a collusion case with 3 other quarterbacks, who are black, by the way, rather than pay them what they worth. So that's the lesson. That's the mentoring. Yeah, he gonna teach him about football, but we know Shedeur is that guy. He teaching him more than football plays X's and O's. He teaching him how to survive in the NFL and get his damn money back. Wow, I'm becoming more disgusted by the day. Yep. And see, they don't want to talk about that. It's funny how when we read the whole, remember I circled the section about Deshaun in the collusion. That's probably why I stopped reading it, because it's just some BS. They talked about all they said in the collusion document, which by the way, Deshaun's contract is the catalyst for that whole case that's been going on since 2022. Why? Because that's when Deshaun got the contract. And there were 3 other quarterbacks that had to negotiate. And the owners got together and made sure that nobody else gave them what Deshaun had. But the owners never said why Deshaun's contract was an exception to the rule. Nobody has said that to this day. They just want to say they don't want nobody with it. But they don't want to tell you why he got it. That's how you know it's another cover up. And that's why we still circling the wagon. Because I think the truth about how Deshaun Watson got that contract gonna come out. I think the truth about the collusion is going to come out. I think they next collusion case, they're going to be found not guilty, and that could be Shedeur. And he might not ever have to step into a court of law. Deshaun Watson didn't have to, and that's probably what he want to teach Shedeur. The fans are going to have to make more noise since the players can't. Right, Amber? The players cannot. It's up to the fans. It said Adam Silver and Rob Manfred stay invested in growing their leagues. Roger Goodell stay trying to keep billionaires owners in place. Yeah, it seems to me that the NFL and the WNBA are both stuck in a place where neither league wants to admit that the best and the most talented players in their leagues are black, and that's who they should highlight. They don't want melanated faces to be the face of the league. The NFL is the quarterback position. They'll talk about Travis till the cows come home, but let him become a quarterback. Then you're going to see something different. The quarterback position is the most important position on the team. They covet it, and they want that position to remain white. Look at how Shedeur, Cam, and Miro are being treated as a 552 on July 1st, 2025. See, we done went from the draft where people could just see it's about Shedeur. Now people starting to see as time goes on, hold on, this ain't about Shedeur because they drafted him for $4 million and they still don't want him to start. So it wasn't about Deshaun. They used Deshaun as a scapegoat again. Not a coincidence. Deshaun and Shedeur in the same city where the team is notorious for mismanaging quarterbacks' careers. And I still have not yet to name a successful black quarterback to come out of Cleveland. I guess Deshaun is it with his 8-4 record. You think the NFL can't control the narrative that the media puts out about Deshaun? Of course it can. But since they had to pay him all his money back, sure, just go ahead. They want his reputation and his legacy to be garbage. That's why he can't play. So, that's what it is. So all the people running around talking about Deshaun taking Shedeur under his wing, rest assured, it ain't about football. And it ain't about uh what they told you happened with Deshaun. Because what they won't tell you is why they gave him back every damn dime. So he gonna teach him the pitfalls. He gonna teach him how to survive. And he probably gonna teach him how to get his damn money. So yeah, the more people, I think if the fans did know the truth, I think if the fans, and it's not even critical thinking. I think they trust the media so much that they don't even stop to think for themselves. Wait a minute. You paid him back every damn dime that he had to pay. Plus you paid him his legal fees. Plus you paid him his fine. Now, why would you do that? He say he not guilty. Two grand juries declined to charge him with anything, and y'all didn't kick him out the league. They don't even think to that point because they blinded by something else. I think certain people are blinded by hatred because they don't want Deshaun to be a black quarterback. They don't want black quarterbacks, period. So they stop right there at, oh, he's black. And they want to pin that on him, right? And then there's just some people, they just listen to whatever the media says. That's why the media keeps repeating certain things because there's certain people that, based on who's talking, that's just what they want to believe. It's not even critical thinking. It's just think. Think. How the hell, why was his contract the exception to the rule? So all he has left to do before he leaves the NFL is hopefully his career will somehow, man, he probably ain't worried about his career. That's why they're so confident. Whenever you hear them say, Deshaun Watson has taken his last snap in the NFL, they said that before the draft. How they know that? Because they're not going to let him play, but they're going to let him take the fall for underperforming, for always being injured, for not being able to play the game, but being paid for it. So I hope that before he leaves the NFL, that at least the truth has come out about why his contract was the exception to the rule and what really happened after he asked for a trade. I'm sure he's provided mental support. Yeah, I know he provided mental support. I don't doubt that at all. But I do think, that he is guiding him to avoid the environment that he's in. He's teaching him how to cope. What did we say Shedeur needed? I said he need to go to therapy. But if he ain't gonna go to therapy, there's somebody that has been through it. somebody that has been set up for asking for a trade, somebody that the league has allowed people to trash his name, even though the league has given Deshaun Watson essentially back every dime that he paid. Somebody that has been defamed, devalued. Somebody has been through what Shedeur has been through already. Might look different, but it's still the same. Devaluing, making a mockery of you, public humiliation can guide him. And that's what he needs. That's exactly what he needs. Deshaun is about to get married. There are people, he limits his comments. There are people that love on them and realize they paid this man back every damn dime. But is the NFL willing to clean that up? No. Why? Because they don't want to look guilty for what happened to Deshaun after he got a trade, for hiding the fact that it was not just Deshaun. That's why they don't talk about Justin Tucker. So that's what it is. That's just what it is. So, we'll see how much they talk about it. Because the more you talk about Shedeur, you're going to have to talk about Retzloff, right? We talked about that. Keep talking about Shedeur, and we're going to have to talk about all these other scandals. Well, if you want to trash Deshaun taking Shedeur under his wing, I'm going to tell you what's really going on. And then let's talk about why Deshaun Watson's contract is the exception to the rule after what you said he guilty of, that he wasn't charged for, that he said he innocent of, and he wasn't the only one. So the more that you try to trash these guys, the more the truth is going to have to come out. And that's what they don't want. They wanted to put the story out there about Deshaun, but they didn't want to reel it back in when they realized, oh shit, he not the only one. He sure not. He sure isn't. Are they worried about Justin Tucker negatively influencing his teammates? Why not? They did the same thing. See the difference between their two cases? The women from the Spy came forward about Justin Tucker, and the NFL pushed off and tried to slow it down and quiet it. That's not what happened with Deshaun. That's not what happened with Deshaun at all. 22 cases out of the blue popped up in 3 months. 22 different people in 3 months. And he wasn't found guilty in not one case. And reimbursed every dime. It boils down to what? Public humiliation. When you put it all together and all that's left, that's all that's left. They destroyed his reputation and they publicly humiliated him. $230 million. So that's it. So that's it on this one. Y'all let me know your thoughts. We can keep the conversation going in the chat. I heard when Deshaun Watson learned how shady the front office was, including the owner and the general manager, and when Bob McNair made the racial statement, Deshaun was done. What did Bob McNair say? Wait a minute, what? I didn't hear about a racial statement. I just heard when he asked for a trade, that was it. And 3 months later, he just got hit. And that's what I mean by they don't want to talk about Justin Tucker because, see, nobody came forward to tell the NFL anything about Deshaun. Nobody. They went and got people. They went and got people. The next door neighbor is the lawyer. The neighbor of the owner is the lawyer. Come on, guys. That's why a grand jury never found him guilty of anything. And that's why he got his money back. No other major league association in American sports treats their upcoming talent like this, right? I said last October the draft was going to be weak. Now, 9 months later, we see exactly what I was saying. I think the draft itself was weak. I think the NFL used this opportunity to shun the talent of three black quarterbacks because they didn't want another repeat of three black quarterbacks in the first round like 2024. They don't want it to happen in 2026. The class itself, the talent is there. Anytime you have Milroe, you know his comps, right? You have Milroe, you have Cam Ward and Shedeur, essentially the same QB. And I said Shedeur Sanders is At some point, you can see Jaden Daniels. You see Pat Mahomes, the extending of the plays. So you got three quarterbacks comparable to Joe Burrows, Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick, Pat Mahomes, Jada Daniels, and Tom Brady. That's the top. That's the cream of the crop. That's just Milroe. That's just Milroe and Shedeur. I didn't even name no comps for Cam. But I can double it because he and Shedeur are technically the same QB. He might have a different comp. But do you understand the comps of these guys? And that's who they're shunning. But they did the same thing to Michael Penix Jr. And then what did they do? The same thing they do to Angel Reese. They start off with somebody else, even though it's supposed to be Michael Penix Jr. because he's a first round pick. But then they give Kirk Cousins the chance to blow it, and he does. And then who got to come in and be the savior? Michael Penix Jr. That's exactly what happened to Angel Reese. They went 2-6, talking about they want to do something different. Somebody get hurt. She gets the opportunity to ball out. And that's all people could talk about is the Chicago Sky. They put these guys and these women, these black players, they put hurdles in front of them. Not only do they put hurdles in front of them, they do things to help them get stopped dead in their tracks. They're not just making it difficult. They're making it damn near impossible. Difficult is one thing. And over the years, black quarterbacks have overcome the difficulty put in front of them unjustly. And they still can't stop it. So what did you see? They pumped the damn brakes. With Shedeur in the draft and now Miro and Cam in the season as they are getting ready for their first season. Trying to make it difficult for them. Virtually impossible for Milroe. Why are they trying to stop Milroe so hard? They said he was trash. So if he trash, why are you worried about it? Because he wasn't trash. Nobody with a QB comp of Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson is trash. They only said that so they could get Jackson Dart out the SEC first. Just like they said Dart was sneaking up into the first round. They knew what was going to happen before the draft. He didn't have to sneak if he was good. He was only sneaking because he wasn't good. And it's proven itself. So now they out here knocking themselves out, trying to make him practice just throwing the ball and getting it together when they don't even realize what his real weakness is. It's up here. It's up here. All because, oh shit, I didn't draft or I didn't sign Russell Wilson for 1 year with the intent for him to be my first black starting quarterback ever. They did not. And you get ready to see what they're going to do to try to stop it, including probably lose. Isn't that what they did when they had Saquon Barkley? They wasted his best years. That's why he said, don't be surprised if I wake up and retire. What are you killing yourself for? That's why they keep rotating through a new crop of players every 4 years for the most part. Because people catch on in 3 to 4 years. 3 years, if I let you go past that, I'm going to have to pay you retirement. So I'm going to get most of y'all out of here in 3 years. 2/3 of you not going to be here 3 years from now. That's what Deshaun Watson is teaching Shedeur. How to be a black quarterback and survive in NFL. Coach Prime can't teach him that because he wasn't a quarterback. That's clearly something he's learning from another quarterback. And it's not a coincidence who that quarterback is. The Houston owner and the other management knew that Deshaun Watson liked to get massages and he was probably super cool with the girls, but the organization offered them money and they couldn't refuse. And he wasn't the only one getting massage in Houston, but I don't doubt it. It said weak talent is not the same as weak protection. Plus, being showcased seems to be confused by people when I posted this prior to the draft. NBA, MLB, NHL, Major League Soccer have never done this. No, they've never done this. Why? Because in soccer, they already have a lot of black players. They just African. They're not generally African American. That's one difference right there. But they have faced racism in Major League Soccer. I've read about it. Mostly from the fans. I don't know what's going on in the leagues, but definitely from the fans, throwing bananas and things like that. So the racism is there. Hockey, I mean, probably the few players that are there. See, there's no threat in soccer. There's no threat in hockey. There's no threat in baseball with melanated, or excuse me, African Americans taking over those leagues in the coveted positions. But there is a threat, a dual threat in the NFL. And that's why, because when Michael Vick and Dante Culpepper came along, and y'all say Donovan McNabb too, with their mobility, for sure, Michael Vick, everybody else wanted a dual threat quarterback. So yeah, the NBA, they got their own situation, and they suffering for it. They suffering for making preference the priority. That's why their views are low. Because people just like, look, this is a waste of time. People would always say the NBA was rigged, but then they started to see for themselves, like I did. And people told me when I first moved here, the Atlanta organization is gonna let you down. They did not lie. When I realized, I said, so they not trying to win. They not. They willing to entertain you. They willing to sell you food and sell you t-shirts and sell you this and sell you that, but they not willing to win. They willing to have a preference. And that's what they have in Atlanta. I don't know who they have this year. MLB will draft a pitcher in the third and treat him like he gonna be the bomb. Yep. I don't get that either, James. I would be hyping my picks out. Right. I asked the question. I said, why is it? I asked under the NFL page in the comment section, I said, why do you allow the media to disparage your draft picks? That's your investment. Now you know the answer because they was in on it. And it took the truth about, see, the prank exposed everything. See, people don't realize that public humiliation stunt that was live during the Saints pick, which people thought was taking Shedeur because they had said he was going to different teams, and he was like, it don't matter where I go. See, what people don't know is that public humiliation stunt coming to light. It shined the light on everything. It made the connection between the Saints and the Giants and Ole Miss, the Mannings. It made the connection come true to the fact that this is not about talent. With two black quarterbacks being overlooked for two white, lesser talented quarterbacks. Even Quinn Ewers people called it collusion. Because it was. He went to UT. He didn't go to Ole Miss. That's how you knew who the connection was. That's like when you look at that camp that's happening. You see the quarterbacks that are out there. They also the top 5 quarterbacks coming out of college. And I didn't see Lenoris Sellers there. Maybe he was, but his daddy should have definitely took that damn money, because 2 of them is going to be forced, one to the Saints and one to the Giants. And this time, the only reason why it's not a quarterback from Ole Miss is because I think the quarterback from Ole Miss might possibly be black. If they don't find a reason to bench him like they did Keelan Russell in Alabama. None of Alabama's quarterbacks in the top 5. That's not a coincidence. They have a 5-star who could play and start as a freshman, but he's black. They don't want that. They've already found a reason to bench him. That's what Deshaun Watson is teaching Shedeur. Now, somebody needs to teach Keelan Russell so he can survive down there, because it's going to be hard. The environment alone, his mental, the fact that he lost his sister, that's a lot for a young person to deal with. So just like Deshaun Watson is coming to the aid of Shedeur Sanders, somebody better come to the aid of Keelan Russell. That's why I was like, do we have room for one more at CU? Just purely to get him out of that environment. Because they already starting with the Fugazi, because they trying to make sure that the top quarterbacks that come out this year are not 3 black ones. They don't even want 3 white ones. They want 5. Because they're trying to reduce the numbers of black quarterbacks by switching them off to pocket passes. Because that's where the athleticism come in with the dual threats. That's what Deshaun Watson is teaching Shedeur. He asked for the trade right after they traded D Hop. Yup. Hopkins asked for a small raise, and Bill O'Brien disrespected him and traded him. Yup. See, that's what I'm saying. This is 2021. Race Norman was in full effect. I'd have to sit down and look at the date. I think Deshaun Watson asked for a trade in January of 2021. The Race Norman case wasn't even settled until June of 2021. So Race Norman was a practice and a policy when Deshaun Watson and D Hop asked for something. The question is, how did these guys even survive in this league with these people with their foots on their necks and them chained up to a fence like a dog? But I have an idea. And on one of our next topics that we're going to discuss, we're talking about the mentality of some of the players, past and present. Which makes me, when I'm listening to them talk, like Chris Carter, I'm like, oh, that's what's wrong with the NFL. People with this kind of mentality. He shouldn't even be employed anywhere where there's people coming out of college. I think he's like a player development something. That's no good. Because he going to tell them to strip themselves of who they are. That's like having a mold straight out of the NFL into a college organization to tell the guys, don't worry about the NIL. The same foolishness you heard after Lenore Sellers was offered $8 million. Oh, you don't need $8 million. Now, that's just ridiculous. He ain't playing football for free. Why does he have to play for free? Why couldn't he take advantage of it? After Quinn Ewers passed on $6 million, it ended up with what, 3 or 4? I'm sure there are people that should look at that situation and look at the draft and do what? I'm staying in school, just like the NBA, just like the players coming out of college not going to the NBA. The NFL needs to be the same way, but we talked about it. They still talking about the league as if nothing happened. They talking about the league as if they don't know nobody who been through some bullshit. They talking about going to the league as if they don't even know Shedeur and know what the hell he went through, and somehow they must have internalized that it's their fault, that it's his fault. Deshaun Watson wouldn't be taking Shedeur under his wing if it was his fault. He knows he has valuable information on how to survive and get your damn money. So, yep, the fans are going to have to show up. They're going to have to show up. Didn't know I was live. Oh, hey, Charlotte. Oh, you didn't get the notification? I scheduled it, I think, after the one from earlier today. Interesting how they are now trying to walk everything about Shedeur back and how they are talking about trading Deshaun. Yep, I did read something right before this live. They talking about trading Deshaun to Detroit or somewhere. They trying to split Deshaun up from Shedeur. They want to do that. Because, see, you know, what y'all don't realize is they don't want these guys sharing information and helping each other out. They don't want that. But see, they done messed around and started stacking black quarterbacks together. But they don't want Jalen Hurts to impart any type of knowledge and wisdom and navigational skills on DTR. They don't want Deshaun imparting shit on Shedeur because they both been colluded against, which means Shedeur's next contract is going to have to be an exception to the rule. But see, I don't think he got to wait 4 years for it. I don't think that at all. They might want to renegotiate his contract right now. Because that damn case is a slam dunk. And they know that. So don't be surprised if Deshaun ends up somewhere else all of a sudden. But then see, that's where they're going to mess up. Because if he goes somewhere else, he going to play. That's exactly what they did to Russell Wilson. Shipped him out of Denver like it was a punishment to where? Pittsburgh. And what happened? He elevated from QB2 to QB1 and they made a run for the playoffs. And they was going to do it again until Mike Tomlin got stripped of his power. So if they ship Deshaun Watson out somewhere and make him QB2, he also going to elevate to QB1 because these black quarterbacks in the NFL have had so many obstacles and barriers put in their place, and they still made it. They are a small number of people in a big sea of quarterbacks in the NFL, and yet they are a threat to become the majority this season. They held off Shedeur and Milroe in the draft. Now let's see if they can hold them off in the season. I bet you can't. For the same reason, Angel Reese ended up with more playing time. Injuries. See, they can't control that variable. They don't think about the unexpected. They thought it was smart to stack Shedeur with Deshaun. They was going to do that anyway. Because Shedeur was pre-drafted extensively with them. They chose Shedeur to go to Cleveland because Deshaun was already black. And they like, well, just put the two black quarterbacks together. But they spread the three white ones out. Now that's going to backfire. Because I got Jalen Hurts, who can tutor DTR after DTR, who just left Cleveland. I got Tyrod Taylor down there who can hold down Justin Fields. Because look what he been through. So all of that stacking black quarterbacks together, it ain't going to go the way they think it's going to go. They think these guys are not going to be friendly and help each other. Now watch somebody get ready to be on the move. Now that Deshaun Watson is imparting wisdom and taking Shedeur under his wing. It actually says Deshaun Watson is mentoring Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur, but that he's taking Shedeur under his wing, as he should. Now let's see what happened there. That's the unexpected. They didn't expect that. Why? Because in their minds, they try to get these black guys to be individual and that we don't stick up for one another. That has been proven false so many times, but they still rely on it because it's a stereotype. That's how they navigate with stereotypes. So that's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. So there's a lot. As you can see, there's a lot that Deshaun Watson can teach Shedeur, and mostly about how to navigate as a black quarterback in the NFL, which has an issue with the majority of its starting quarterbacks being black. So we're going to get out of here, everybody. I appreciate y'all. This was good engagement. Excellent, excellent engagement. Hit the like button on the way out for me. We'll be back at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Who knows what we're going to talk about? We got a couple topics on deck. And we'll go from there. I am proud of Deshaun. Keep being strong and leading the way for Lil Bro. Yep, that's it. That's it. I agree. It's funny now that the media referred to Deshaun Watson. They preface by mentioning his past. However, they say nothing regarding Aaron Rodgers and Justin Tucker. Oh, they don't want to talk about Aaron Rodgers at all. Thank you for Shy Shy. That's cute, Shy Shy. You must be from Chicago. Thank you so much. All right, so y'all have been armed with information that you maybe did know or did not know. When you see people, if they bold enough to talk about the negatives about Deshaun Watson taking Shedeur Sanders under his wing, you set them straight. He can tell him how to get a $500 million contract. That's the exception to the rule, fully guaranteed. That's what he could tell him. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I'll be back tonight at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for watching What She Said. Okay, Gracie, Charlotte. Okay, okay. And yeah, watch the replay. If you joined us late, it's okay. Just watch the replay, hit the like button, and comment, and I'll respond. Thank you, everybody. Let's keep the conversation going in the chat. Thanks for watching What She Said Sports. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Be sure to join our daily live stream and listen up to What She Said Sports on the go on Spotify. Thank you for watching What